Alright, so the Legion class preview series for priests were announced today. And I'll only be making a video about the priest one because that's the class I main and raid on. I raid in a not so hardcore guild. It's like we're I don't know, I wouldn't even call it semi-hardcore. The best we've done is we're working on heroic Archimon right now. We got him to like 20%, and we only work on him when we actually have like enough people in the group because that fight is really hard with a small raid group. You would think the inverse would be true. It'd be easier with less people, but it's not. Anyways, I mainly play a Disc Priest. I've been playing a Disc Priest since Wrath, the Lich King. Back in Wrath, Disc Priest spam bubbles and pretty much nothing else. They used other abilities, but your bubble was a large majority of your heals. Then in Cataclysm, they introduced Atonement. Atonement was really great. It was a neat little addition to it. That's what made me really like playing my priest as opposed to all the other healers. Because in Cataclysm, I leveled up all the other healers and tried them out in raids, and I really liked that priest had Atonement as an option to use during their downtime. And then in Miss, it was like the golden age for Disc Priests. They had just everything working well for them. Atonement was great. They had great bubbles in the form of, what was that ability called? Spirit Shell. Yeah, Spirit Shell was actually decent. Bubble spamming was a thing you can do, but it cost a lot of mana, so you had to be really careful with how you used it. Miss was really good for Disc Priests. Warlords, they decided to go back to the Wrath of the Lich King model where you just spam bubble on everyone, and it's really boring. They also nerfed Atonement to the ground where it's garbage. If you're doing Atonement, it's probably because literally you don't have to heal anyone. It's just so bad. And I do not like Warlords Disc Priests, but I don't really like other healers either. Even in the neutered state of Atonement, it's still better than playing the other healers. So, the announcements for Disc Priests. I'm very, very excited for them. I'm going to go over them first, even though they're at the bottom of the list, because I'll go over the other ones later too. Also make sure to put like appropriate footage in the background maybe while I'm reading all this crap for whatever raids. I sometimes record my raids. Maybe I'll do some of our Archimon attempts or something. I don't know. That's if I don't get lazy and just not do it. Okay, so Discipline Priests. Blah blah blah, lore about how they do light and darkness abilities. Gameplay. The power of absorption mechanics has created a gameplay issues for healers that we're looking to address in Legion. Discipline Priests have been so effective in their role of preventing damage that it has sometimes left other healers yearning for an opportunity to throw out a clutch heal. To alleviate that issue, we're tempering Disc Priest's emphasis on shields in lieu of reimagined Atonement mechanic, which is great. I don't like spamming bubbles. I don't know any Disc Priests that love spamming bubbles on everyone. It's boring. It's like spamming rejuve on everyone. If I wanted to spam an instant cast on everyone, I'd play a druid. Discipline Priests are now more clearly defined by their use of both holy and shadow magic, and that extends to how they function in combat. Sacrificing a portion of healing ability and having a reduced focus on absorption spells, they gain a significant contribution to damage. Still, filling a healer role in group content, they aim to strike a balance between healing allies and damaging enemies in a unique gameplay style. So like Mist Priests. Discipline Priests have strong cooldowns with Power Word Barrier and Pain Suppression, along with Rupture, a new cooldown that temporarily removes the cooldown of Power Word Shield. Rapture, it's not Rupture, it's Rapture. Rapture was an ability that Disc Priests had since Wrath, I think. Might have been added in BC, but I don't know for sure. I know for sure it was in Wrath, Kata, and Mist, and was removed in Warlords. It was Priest's way of gaining back mana, because back then all healers had some way to gain back a little bit of mana. And Rapture, every time your bubble popped on someone, it would give you back like a tiny bit of mana. But it had like a short cooldown, like 8 or 15 seconds, depending on which expansion it was. And in some expansions, I think it was just Wrath, the cooldown could be triggered like simultaneously. So if you bubbled a whole group of like melee, they're about to take an AoE damage, and all the bubbles popped at once, you'd get all that mana back before it incurred the cooldown. And in Mist, you could it worked based off of your spirit. So if you popped a spirit trinket and a shaman dropped down their mana tie totem, which back then increased your spirit, you could get about half your mana back from a Rapture proc. So it was pretty good sometimes in certain expansions, and then they just removed it, which is fine because Disc Priests don't really care about mana right now anyway. So they're going to bring it back as a way to remove the cooldown of Power Word Shield. They tried to give a cooldown to Power Word Shield before, and it didn't really work out for them. I'm going to see if they're actually going to stick to it this time. The best way to use Power Word Shield, in my opinion, is when someone's about to die or to throw it on a tank when it's off cooldown. I don't really like spamming it on the raid if I don't have to. So giving it a cooldown, they better make it absorb about a little bit more than it does now. Because right now it's your efficient raid spam, which I don't like. But if they put it back to how it was like in Kata or Mist, where you couldn't really spam it, but it was still really good to put on people as like an emergency heal, I like that style of it. So I'm on board with the changes to Power Word Shield. Temporarily removing the cooldown for Power Word Shield, that seems pretty fun. I mean, I don't like spamming bubble, but temporarily being able to, if it's really good, seems appealing. Okay, here's a basic look at the core defensive and offensive capabilities for Disciplined Priests. Atonement passive. Plea, Power Word Shield, and Shadow Mend also apply Atonement to your target for 15 seconds. When you deal spell damage, you instantly heal all targets affected by Atonement for 50% of the damage done. Developer comment. Healing is not split between atonements. The more allies you have atonement on, the more total healing a damaged spell will cause. That's awesome. Mastery Absolution increases the healing transfer through atonement by 28% with mastery from typical gear. Alright, so looks like they're going to remove Divine Aegis. That's fine. Divine Aegis is basically for Disc Priests. Instead of critting for spells, it instead will put a bubble on the target for the amount it would have, crit for. Say you you heal someone and it heals them for like 100 health. If it crit, it would instead heal them for like 200. For Disc Priests, it would instead just heal for 100 like normal, but it would also put a bubble on them for the other 100 that it would have crit for. Which I don't really like for some fights that require you to heal. Like Immersius or that one dragon fights where you have to heal them up, both of them, the one in Mist and the one in Wrath. Well, in Wrath it didn't really work like that, but in Mist it absolutely did. So any fights that just required pure straight up healing, Disc Priest kind of got the shaft on because their crits just didn't heal as much as everyone else. I really liked in Brackenspore though, when you had to heal up the mushrooms, they continuously took damage, so the bubbles actually helped, and I think they did that just because they knew Disc Priests usually got shafted on those fights where they couldn't really heal them up because their heals just do not heal as much as other healers because of the bubble, and the bubbles are useless to things you just have to heal up. Actually, you know what? There's Gorfiend too. Gorfiend, those ads don't take damage inside the room. You have to heal them up. Oh, well, I do that really easily though. Penance just 1 and it goes all the way up to full. Penance is a really strong single target heal, so for that it's not really that big a deal. But if it was like a boss heal like damn, I forgot her name. The dragon boss in ICC where you heal her up. Disc Priest now wouldn't be as good as other healers were back then. I think she takes damage though too, so bubble might not be that half bad. So it looks like they're going to remove Divine Aegis, maybe. It might just stay in as like a passive. If they get rid of it, that's fine too. Kind of, maybe. Divine Aegis is usually like in my top 3 of most heals, like in all expansions that it was in. Kata, Wrath, no, what is it? Kata, Mist, Divine Aegis is usually my number 1 heal. Just because that Disc Priests usually stack crit, because they want to crit to get off those bubbles. And it's fun. Well, not usually. Some of them don't. I do, though. Let's see. Defensive. Plea. Costs tiny bit of mana. 40-yard range. Instant. A quick, efficient plea to heal an ally for a minor amount. So, this is a new thing. Disc Priests Priests in general have never really had an instant cast heal with no cooldown. That just heals them for a little bit. I can't really see a use for it, other than the fact that it applies Atonement to a target, so I guess that's just a way to apply Atonement to targets. Currently we have an ability called Saving Grace, which is instant cast, and it heals them for a crap ton. It's a really good emergency heal, but if you use it, it reduces all your healing for the next 8 seconds by 15%, and it stacks. so you can only use it so many times in a row. And it's a talent, so you would take that in place of, 2 other abilities that don't lower your healing every time you use it. I like to take it. Many priests do not take it, though, which is totally fine. The other ones technically do give you more, but I raid with people who need emergency healing, so I take it because I know I don't raid with the best raid group in the world, and they make mistakes, and it really helps me rectify those mistakes. Okay, so we've got Shadow Mend. Shadow Mend is basically the new flash heal, but only for Disc Priest and Shadow Priest. Let's see, costs 3% mana, 40 yard range, 1.5 second cast time. Yeah, basically flash heal, except it doesn't really cost that much mana. Wraps an ally in shadow, which heals them for a large amount, but at a price. The ally will take minor damage every 1 second, until they have taken half that amount of total damage from all sources, or leave combat. Okay, so currently there's some Warlock abilities that heal you and then do damage to you later on. The one I can think of off the top of my head is like the Imp heal. Like imps, Warlocks have this imp that will do a little damage to you at first, and then it will give you like a hot that heals you over time. And the little bit of damage it does is very minuscule. It's so tiny it's not even an issue. So I assume it's going to work like that. Maybe. It might do a little bit more than that tiny bit of damage, which is like, I don't know, 0.5%, if even that, of your maximum health. That's a really tiny amount. So it says minor damage, so it might work just like the imp heal. But if it heals them for a large amount, I'm thinking like saving grace levels of large amount. The instant cast we have now, which reduces your healing for 15 seconds after you use it. That'll be a really good heal if all it does is just make him do a little bit of damage afterwards, because you want to basically use flash heals when they're in danger of dying anyway, and they already have a bubble on them. So I like this change. This seems like a really fun ability. Really neat. Power Word Shield, same thing, just has a 6-second cooldown now. Let's see, Power Word Radiance, 7% mana, 2.5 second cast. A Burst of Light heals a friendly target and their 5 nearest allies for a moderate amount, and applies Atonement for 50% of its normal duration. So they get Atonement for like 7.5 seconds since it's 15. Okay, Power Word Radiance. This is great. I'm loving this. Currently, Disc Priests, our only AoE heal is Prayer of Healing. Prayer of Healing is a relic from the Dark Ages. In Wrath of the Lich King, they removed a lot of the group-wide abilities, like, Bloodlust only affecting the group, and so on and so on. They got rid of a lot of, just straight abilities that only apply to a group. Prayer of Healing survived the pruning and lasted all through Wrath, where it would only heal the people within the group. If they weren't in range of the target that were in their group, it didn't heal anyone else. It didn't work like a smart heal, like if you use Circle of Healing, which heals, just people around them. The technology was in the game, even back in BC, it's just it did not apply to Prayer of Healing. Disc Priest's only AoE heal, which only healed the 5 targets in the group of the target you use it on. Come Cataclysm, they removed the remainder group-based abilities that had survived through Wrath, except Prayer of Healing. Prayer of Healing got stuck. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it won't stay like that, because there are literally no other abilities that only apply to a group. No other healing abilities that only apply to the people within your 5-person group. They all, are smart casted heals that heal people around the target. You want to know how Prayer of Healing works today? Exactly the same as it's worked since vanilla. It's the only group-based heal in the game, and they haven't changed it even today, and it's so annoying. It's the stupidest thing. Why do Disc Priests have their only AoE heal relegated to group-based? You basically have to smartly put the groups together and make sure people aren't outside of range, and you have to know where everyone within a group is and cast it on someone who's in the middle of them. That way you can hopefully get in on all of them. As long as if you use it enough times like I have, it's not really that big of a problem. You only miss 1 or 2 people at most. But it's really something that shouldn't be in the game. And it looks like, after over 10 years, they're finally going to fix that. We're finally getting a group-based heal that isn't... we're finally getting an AoE heal that isn't group-based. It's about goddamn time. Holy shit. It's been too long. And Prayer of Healing used to be like really good too before this expansion when they nerfed it into the ground. Basically, it heals for half of what it did before, but costs 2 times as much mana, so it's almost not worth casting for Disc Priests. It's worth casting for Holy Priests because they get like a mana reduction to it through Serendipity. I think they do. I'm pretty sure they do. I don't know 100% because I don't play a Holy Priest. But last time I played it, at the beginning of the expansion, it still worked that way. I think. Also, not only do we finally get a good AoE heal, but it also applies Atonement to everyone it hits, which is awesome. We're finally getting rid of our shitty AoE heal and getting one that seems like it's going to be good. I don't really give a shit how much it heals for just because of how bad Prayer of Mending is right now. Not Prayer of Mending, Prayer of Healing. The Atonement thing sounds really cool too. Okay, on to the offensives. Smite. 1.5 second cast. Smite's an enemy for moderate holy damage. You mean garbage holy damage as it is right now. It used to actually do moderate holy damage. Now it does. You could breathe on the target and do more damage than Smite does. Mind Blast. Costs 3% mana, 40-yard range. Oh, that's, well, it's balanced. Blast the target's mind for strong shadow damage. The new Atonement is going to transfer all damage you do to the Atonement target as healing, which is not how it works today. Atonement only gets transferred through specific holy spells. So, only Penance, Smite, and Holy Fire right now, or Powered Solace if you took the talent, which basically just replaces Holy Fire. So Mind Blast looks like it's going to hit a little bit harder than Smite, but cost about 3 times as much mana. A little bit more than 3 times as much mana. So, okay, I was wondering how they're going to balance that. I thought they would just give Mind Blast a cooldown and make it work like Holy Fire, but it seems like they're just going to make it cost more mana. That works, kind of. It costs about as much mana as a Shadow Mend to use. Ooh. Right now, Disc Priests don't even have Mind Blast. They used to back, like, in Cataclysm, I think, before they took it away. Not as if they ever used it, but they had it as an option. Not that it also ever transferred Atonement, but, I mean, they had the ability. It's usually a Shadow Priest ability, though. Penance. Costs a little bit less mana than Mind Blast. Ugh, excuse me. 40-yard range. Channeled, 9-second cooldown, launches a volley of holy light at the target, causing huge holy damage over 2 seconds, channelable while moving. Okay, so basically it works how it does now. I'm interested to see if they're going to get rid of its healing or damage component, because currently right now Penance can be used to either damage an opponent or heal a target. If you use it to damage, it just causes Atonement. Currently right now, though, it does about half as much damage as it does healing. So it's way better to use it just to heal someone who's low on health. But if you if you use it on someone who's low on health, it heals for so much that it's basically just going to overheal them by a crap ton. The 4-set bonus I have right now, though, makes that not really an issue, because every time you heal with Atonement, it has a 50% chance to arc off to a new target and heal them for the same amount. So it's like having a better Atonement, since Atonement's so bad. And let's see here. Revelation, passive. Your Smite and Mind Blast cast have a 30% chance to reset the cooldown of Penance. 30% is a pretty high chance, actually. Okay, so back in the day, I think just before Warlords, casting Smite would reduce the cooldown of Penance by half a second. So it really gave you some incentive to actually use, your other abilities besides just Penance for Atonement. Because Smite... it actually did decent heals too back in the day too, before they just nerfed it to the ground. Plus the, 0.5 seconds off of Penance was really good, because Penance is the bread and butter of the Priest. It's our best single target heal. It was also the #1 damage in Atonement back in Mist and Cataclysm. I think it is today, but Atonement's so bad it's not even worth mentioning. But yeah, it used to reduce the cooldown by 0.5 seconds, so you got more penances off. And then they removed that. They just really nerfed Atonement into the ground this expansion, because they hated Atonement for some reason. Not for some reason, it was really, really strong. I can see why no other healers had anything like it either. Mistweavers were like baby Atonement priests. They could only hope to put out as much healing as Atonement could back then in Mist. So, they're going to not give back the 0.5 second reduced cooldown every time you cast Might, and instead just have a 30% chance to reset the cooldown entirely. Which I'm okay with. 30% chance is about 1 in 3. It's not exactly 1 in 3, but it's about 1 in 3 chance. That's pretty good. Alright, and Shadow Word Pain. It's basically Shadow Word Pain. But since it gets transferred through Atonement now, that's pretty neat. I wonder if we're still going to have Holy Fire, or if Mind Blast is just going to replace that. It'd be nice to still have Holy Fire. Oh, Channelable while moving, I should also mention this. Currently, this is a glyph. Penance will cost 20% more mana, but you can cast it while moving, which every single Disc Priest takes, and has taken since it was introduced as a glyph back in Miss. So this is basically just removing a glyph slot from us. So I'll finally have a free glyph slot, which I'm excited for because we have a couple of glyphs. Well, plus they're going to give us new glyphs too. It's not like we have really all that many good glyphs anyway. Let's see, additionally, to give you an idea of how some talents may build upon this, here's an example of one of their discipline-specific talents. Grace. Passive. Increases your non-atonement healing and absorption by 30% on targets with atonement. They're finally going to give us Grace back too. Grace used to be this ability Disc Priest had where every time you casted a single target heal, not a bubble, it would put like a buff on the target, which would increase your healing to them by 10%, and it stacked up to 3 times. So you could give up to 30% extra healing on targets that you had Grace stacked up on. The best use of it was basically just use a Penance on the tank. That way they always had Grace on them, because Penance hits 3 times, so it would apply all 3 stacks of Grace. It looks like increases your non-atonement healing and absorptions by 30% on targets with atonement. So we're basically just getting Grace back, because currently Atonement's basically applied every time you heal targets with a single target heal. So it's 30%. It's basically the same as it used to be, which is cool. I kind of missed Grace. I liked having the option to heal a little bit more on a single target heal, just as long as I kept, a Penance up on the tank, which I do anyway. Well, sometimes if I remember it. Okay, so that's it for the Disc Priests. I guess I should go over the other ones too. I won't go over them as long though. I'll take like half the amount of time. Okay, Holy, they're not gonna have shadow abilities anymore. That's basically it. They're removing every single shadow ability from priests and instead giving them a holy version of shadow spells they used to use. So they've got heal, slow but efficient spell that heals an ally for moderate amount, flash heal, a fast but expensive heal that heals an ally for moderate amount, exactly how it is today. Heal, it has a long cast time, but it heals them for the exact same amount as a flash heal. The only difference is flash heal is a faster cast and costs more mana, so you have to be really, I don't know, you just have to think about which one you want to use. Usually you use the flash heal, but there are certain instances where you would just use the regular heal since it costs less mana. I kind of like how they did that. They tried to give us choices in heal back in like Cataclysm and Miss, but it never really worked. People just kept using flash heal. And I like how they just made the big heal and the quick heal just heal for the exact same amount, but one just costs less mana. I really like that style of healing. I was like, oh, that is a good way to fix that. Instead of having 3 heals to choose from. One of them had a long cast time, but healed for shit, but it was super cheap to cast. Then Flash Heal, which healed for a lot, but had a fast cast. And then the Big Heal, which healed for a tiny bit more than the Flash Heal, but cost about the same as the Flash Heal, and had the same cast time as the slow cast one. I like this version a lot better. Alright, Holy Word Serenity. 1 minute cooldown, 40-yard range, performs a miracle, healing an ally for an absolutely massive amount. So basically like Saving Grace, except it has a 1 minute cooldown and doesn't reduce your healing for 15%. I am on board with Holy Word Serenity. That's a good idea, considering down here, Serendipity is going to reduce the cooldown of Holy Word Serenity by 6 seconds every time you flash heal or heal. So every time you cast a single target heal, it'll reduce the cooldown by 6 seconds, meaning the 1 minute cooldown is basically going to be a little bit less than that. You could even just get rid of it completely by spam casting, which is fine by me. I kind of still think a minute cooldown is a little bit too long for something like this. Maybe Maybe like 30 seconds. 30 seconds seems better. Prayer of Healing. Basically the same as it is now, except it's a powerful prayer that heals up to 5 injured allies within 15 yards of the target for a strong amount. Oh, they're even changing the original Prayer of Healing to not be shit and be limited to a group. It's about time. This is so long overdue, you have no idea. Oh my god, I just wish we had this today, because it's seriously the dumbest thing. Like, why? Why is it even bound to a group right now anyway? There have been no other group bound abilities since, like, Wrath. And even then, it was rare. Actually, you know what? There's probably some group bound ability, but I honestly can't think of any other ones besides Prayer of Healing. In fact, other classes, like other people in the raid, when I ask for assist so I can rearrange the group, they're like, why do you need to rearrange the group? He's like, oh, because we have a shitty group-based ability. And they're like, oh yeah, you're literally the only person who has something like that. Go ahead, rearrange the groups however you want. And I was like, thanks. I really don't want to have to do this, though, because it's a pain in the ass. Okay, Prayer of Mending, still garbage. It still has the stupid cast time on it. I wish they would remove that because it's really annoying. It used to be Prayer of Mending, you cast it off cooldown because it actually healed for a decent amount, and it was instant cast, so it was like, hey, just make sure to cast it off cooldown on the tank. Now that it has a cast time and heals for garbage, I don't really ever use it, unless I literally just have like nothing else to do, just because if it bounces all 5 times, it'll do more damage than if I just spent those global cooldowns using Atonement. So I throw it out sometimes, but it's so bad I don't throw it off a cooldown like I used to. Holy Priest, however, I think it heals for a lot more. I don't know, I think they actually use Prayer of Mending a lot. I'm not sure, I don't play Holy Priest. So that's why this is going to be a lot shorter. Holy Word Sanctify, 5% mana, 40 yard range, instant 1 minute cooldown, release a miraculous light into a target location, healing up to 6 allies within 10 yards for a huge amount. So they're getting their AoE heal. I wonder if it's going to be like Healing Rain again. Or if they're going to make it not shitty and heal for a tiny bit for like 30 seconds. Maybe. That would be cool if they finally fixed it. Oh, I think they also said they're getting rid of Chakra, finally, because Chakra is stupid. It was always really clunky. Basically, the way Chakra stances work right now, and have since they introduced it, where you enter a stance, kind of like a Warrior's Battle stance, or a Death Knight's like Blood Presence or something. And while in this stance, it gives you certain buffs to some of your abilities. Say there's like 3 different stances. I don't know if there's 3 right now, but there was back when I used to use it. One of the stances increased your damage, so you could go for a damage Holy Priest, which is actually a thing back in Mist. You could go and do more damage in a tank easily, and you could also do about as much damage as like your lowest DPS if they were really bad, while at the same time having Lightwell and emergency heals to help out the group. So that was a fun thing. That was like my first video that ever got more than 1,000 views on its own, was a video I made about how to be a holy damage dealer. It was fun. I also use that a lot in the Brawlers Guild. It didn't do a lot of damage, but it didn't do an insignificant amount either. And then the other 2 stances of Chakra allowed you to go like into single target healing, where it gave you basically Holy Word Serenity, except it only had like a 10-second cooldown. It healed for a moderate amount and gave the person you used it on like a buff where it increased all single target healing on that target by like 30% or something. And the other stance you had increased the healing of all your AoE spells, lowered the cooldown of Circle of Healing, and also gave you Sanctify. Well, I don't think it's called that right now though. Where it was like a shittier version of Circle of Healing? No, not Circle. What's that one ability shamans have where they throw it on the rain? I know I just said it earlier, I just forgot. It's a really bad cleansing rain. It lasts like almost 30 seconds, and it heals for like nothing. It's always been bad. It was way worse back in the day. I think it's actually usable today, but it's still bad. So just getting rid of the Chakra stances instead just giving us the abilities that were in the Chakra stances, because whenever you switched its stance, it also changed your Holy Word Chastise into one of these abilities, so you couldn't use it as damage anymore. It's not like it ever did a lot of damage anyway. But it did have a really neat like disorient effect like Scattershot used to be. Alright, and then Renew is exactly the same. Serendipity, they changed it so that it reduces the healing. I mean the cooldowns of Sanctify and Serenity by 6 seconds. Every time you cast either a single target heal or an AoE heal, Prayer of Mending too, which is neat. And then every time you cast Smite or Holy Fire, the cooldown of Holy Word Chastise is reduced by 6 seconds. Currently, or how it used to work when I played my Holy Priest a lot back in Mist, was every time you cast Smite, it had like a 20% chance to reset the cooldown of Chastise. So I guess just reducing it by 6 seconds every time you use it works too. Echo, Mastery of Light. Your direct healing spells heal for an additional 25%, with Mastery from typical gear over 6 seconds. That's exactly the same as it is right now. Let's see, their cool little talent they're going to get. Instant, 3-minute, enter pure holy form for 30 seconds, increasing the effects of serendipity by 200%. Oh. Ooh, okay, so for 30 seconds, currently it's 6 seconds, and you times that by 3, so what is that, 18? So every time you cast a heal, it would reduce the cooldown by 18 seconds. So if you cast 2 of those heals, it would reduce it by, let's see, that's 40 minus 4, 36 seconds. Damn, that's actually pretty significant. Cast it 3 times and the cooldown's almost up. 4 times and it is up. That seems like a pretty strong cooldown. I guess that's why they gave it such a long cooldown, for a cooldown like this to seem more exciting. What was the discipline one again? Oh yeah, Grace. Basically just gave us Grace back. That's all it was. They're like, oh, look at this new exciting disp talent. It's the Grace that we took away in Warlords. Alright, Shadow, the light in which many priests, blah blah blah, they're going to use old god based abilities. Let's see, we've long alluded to the old god's influence on Shadow Priests and their spells and abilities, or making them more distinct in Legion. A new resource, Insanity, provides a better fit for Shadow. Having more granularity, and gameplay that emphasis on the immense but fleeting powers of the Void offers. Mind Blast, Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch will build Insanity. Reaching maximum Insanity will transform you into Void form, giving the Shadow Priest access to stronger Void magic. But it is unable to maintain indefinitely. This should make for some interesting gameplay as Shadow Priests try to maintain the height of their mastery as long as they prey on the minds of their enemies. While not under the effects of Insanity, Shadow Priests continue to rely heavily on abilities that inflict sustained damage over time. Finally, having turned away from the light, Shadow Priests eschew such spells as Heal, Flash Heal, and Prayer of Mending. Power Word Shield and Shadow Mend are their primary healing tools. Oh, that's basically why they gave Priest Shadow Mend. I already went over what that was with the Dis section, since Dis Priest will be using Shadow Mend in place of Flash Heal, which I'm totally A-okay with. I mean, unless they give us Shadow Mend in addition to Flash Heal. That'd be fine too. Discipline's going to be like a mix of Holy and Shadow, which is full. As long as they, make Atonement worth using again, I'm totally fine. The whole reason I like playing my Disc Priest was because of Atonement. I don't really like bubble spamming. For Shadow, though, I do have a lot of experience with Shadow too. I did main Disc, but every time we had to have, to lose a healer and gain a DPS for a fight, I was usually the one who went DPS, because I can actually do, good damage, considering I mained a Hunter for a long time too. I know what it's like to play a DPS. I keep up to date with it enough, and I make sure to keep my offset somewhat maintained. I even went Shadow quite a bit back in Blackrock Foundries when we had an abundance of healers. And because I also was the top DPS, because the fight we're working on had lots of dot targets. And Shadow Priests excel on multi-dotting fights. I was even beating out the Boomkins and the Enhancement Shamans who were spreading Flame Shocks and Starfalls, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, just Shadow can do really well on multi-target fights. So they're removing mana and instead giving you Insanity, which is fine. Because Insanity, actually I think Shadow Mend is going to use Insanity to actually cast. Because currently the only thing Shadow Priests have to worry about with their mana is running out of mana when they cast Flash Heal on themselves in like PvP, or if they're trying to heal themselves. Because a healer is ignoring them or something. I know I use Flash Heal myself sometimes too. Or if a healer drops, I'll start spamming Flash Heals. An off-heal Shadow Priest in an emergency situation used to be something you could actually do before Warlords, before they just neutered all the healing abilities, and now all we have is heal.
I don't think we even have heal. I'm pretty sure it's just Flash Heal and Prayer of Mending. Those are the only heals we actually have now. We used to have like all the healing spells before they took them away. So yeah, it was just Flash Heal, and Flash Heal doesn't really heal for a lot anyway. It heals for about almost 10% of your health. And Prayer of Mending is garbage. It used to be good though. It used to be Shadow Priest could run around in PvP and throw out like a Shadow Word, no, a Power Word barrier, their bubble. They can throw Renew on themselves, and they can throw a Prayer of Mending because they had a glyph which allowed them to use those 3 spells while in shadow form. So they had 3 abilities they could use while moving, 3 instant cast. And all 3 of them were decent. Prayer of Mending actually healed for a decent amount. Renew, it was never really that great for Shadow. But Bubble was pretty decent too. It's still decent right now for Shadow. They even have a nice glyph that they use that allows them to do damage with it. Where basically like 70% of the damage it absorbs gets reflected back at whoever attacks you. Pretty neat stuff. Let's see. Oh, and instead they're just going to give us, whatchamacallit, Shadow Mend. That's fine. If it's going to use Insanity, that's fine too, actually. I don't really care. Not having mana is not that big a deal considering how Insanity is said to work right here. Void Form, passive. When you reach 100 Insanity, you enter Void Form, transforming your Mind spells into Void spells, and increasing your shadow damage by 30%. While in Void Form, you gain 2% haste every 1 second. This haste will also persist for 20 seconds after Void Form ends. Void Form causes your Insanity to constantly drain, faster and faster, until completely drained and Void Form ends. Okay, so Void Form is kind of like playing a demo lock today, kind of, where they can shift in and out of Demon Form, except you can only go into Void Form once you hit 100 Insanity, and it just becomes a cooldown. So it's kind of like the Eclipse mechanic, a little bit. I don't really know how Eclipse works today. I know it used to be, it took forever to actually reach one of the states, and while you were in that state, you had a whole bunch of buffs to that specific type of magic. So I guess it's kind of like the demo lock thing. Mind Flay is basically exactly the same it is right now, except while in Void Form, it also extends Shadow Word Pain by 3 seconds. Kind of like how it used to be when it used to reset the duration of Shadow Word Pain on the target, where you never had to actually reapply it. Mind Blast, basically the same as it is today, generates 15 Insanity, while in Void Form, transforms into Void Blast, which has a 4.5 second cooldown, and also extends Vampiric Touch by 3 seconds. Ooh, that's neat. I don't think there's ever been an ability that actually extended Vampiric Touch's ability. It was always Shadow Priest is just hardest hitting dot, which is neat that it actually extends it. I'm pretty sure it'll still hit hard too. And it has a lower cooldown. Basically the same cooldown if you take Cop build. I forget what it's called actually. Vampiric Touch. This will change this one a little bit. A Touch of Darkness that causes huge damage over 24 seconds. Ooh, they increased it. Did they say how much Shadow Word Pain is? Shadow Word Pain is still 18 seconds. Heals the priest for each point of damage dealt. Okay, so they changed Vampiric Touch to kind of work how Devouring Plague used to work before they turned it into the cooldown it is, with the Shadow Orbs and shit. Actually, you know what? Are we still going to have Shadow Orbs, or are they just going to straight up remove Devouring Plague? I don't know. This is just like a sneak peek. It doesn't show you everything. So it works like the old Devouring Plague, where it heals the priest for the damage it does. It looks like it's going to heal you for all the damage it does, though. Devouring Plague used to do that, and sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it only just healed you for a specific amount of damage it did. So they can make Vampiric Touch actually seem like a vampire ability. That's neat. If Vampiric Touch is dispelled, the dispeller flees in horror for 3 seconds. Yeah, it's still the same. Each time Vampiric Touch deals damage, it generates 3 Insanity. Damn, 24 seconds. Currently, it only lasts 15 seconds. So that's like a 9-second increase, which is pretty neat. I'm not used to Vampiric Touch lasting longer than Shadow Word Pain, which is 18 seconds. It's going to get weird to get used to. But then again, that's what Devouring Plague used to last. It used to be 24 seconds, too. It still has a cast time, though. It'd really neat if they made it instant cast like Shadow Word Pain. That would make multi-dotting so much easier. Shadow Word Pain works exactly the same as it does now, except it also, generates insanity just like the other abilities, and has a 10% chance to reset the cooldown of Mind Blast. Kind of like the talent you can take right now, which does that. But it's going to be baseline. Mastery, Madness, increases the damage and insanity generated from your Mind Blast, Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, and Shadow Word Death by 20%. So, all your single target abilities do 20% more damage and generate 20% more insanity. What does the Mastery do right now? Doesn't it just give you a chance to like double crit or something? I actually don't know. I don't know. I play my Shadow Priest a lot when I go out and do stuff solo, but I have no idea what a Mastery is like. I could probably just look that up real quick, but I don't want to. Basically, the Mastery is working kind of like how it did back in Cataclysm. Or was it also Mist? Did they give us Shadow Orbs in Mist? I don't remember. I mean, we have Shadow Orbs in Cataclysm too, it's just they don't work how they did today. Basically, the Shadow Orbs, every time you did damage with spells, you had a chance to gain a Shadow Orb. And you could stack up to 3 times. And you could consume the Shadow Orbs by using a Mind Blast. And it would like increase the damage of that Mind Blast by a crap ton. And your Mastery increase the damage of the extra damage from your Shadow Orbs. So it kind of works like that, but then again it doesn't, because it also works on your dots too. So Madness increasing the damage of your dots is actually a pretty big deal. I don't think Shadow Priest will ever go back to the day where dots do about half their damage. That was fun. Back in the day, when Shadow Priests could do half of their damage as dots, you could basically just dot up 2 targets in PvP, and then just CC, and just wait for the dots to do damage. That was great. You didn't actually have to actively cast, you just had to put your dots up and then run around because your dots did so much damage. That'd be so fun if they did that again. Let's see, and there's Shadow-specific talent. Oblivion! Instant. 2-minute cooldown. Let the power of the void flow through you, instantly generating 100 insanity. Ooh. Only use I can use for this is like, as soon as you finish, what's the transformation called? Void form? Is you'd pop Oblivion and go into a second void form right after. Or maybe just popping Oblivion at the beginning of the fight, and then again saving it for as soon as the void form ends. That way you get the full benefit of 100 insanity. Neat. It all depends how easy it is to actually get into void form. Alright, and that's the Disc Priest thingy. I'm really excited about the Discipline Priest changes. The Shadow Priest changes seem cool too. The Holy Priest ones actually seem pretty cool. But holy crap, am I looking forward to actually being able to use Atonement again. And the new way they have Atonement, where you actually can just put it on targets, and then it transfers all of your damage. That sounds fun. It actually seems like you could manage Atonement, which is what I've always wanted to do. Because the only reason I really played my Disc Priest was because I liked the Atonement mechanic, being able to heal people while doing damage at the same time. It was fun because of the smart heal. You didn't have to try to snipe heals from everyone else. Like the other healers, they basically have to sit there and wait for people to take damage to heal them up, and if they try to go for a heal, someone else might have healed them already. Or they'll just throw dots out to prepare for damage that's about to come out. While Disc Priest could just spam Atonement and not give a shit, because it'll just heal whoever takes any damage before a human could even react to that amount of damage taken. It's really fun for times of light damage, which is a majority of raids. It's not like you're constantly taking a crap ton of damage. And then when you did constantly take a crap ton of damage, they actually had abilities to take care of them. And Atonement was an option to use during those times too. Like if everyone was spread out and running around a target, you could just Atonement. Like I remember Garrosh during the Whirlwind phase when everyone was having to move away from the shadows and shit. You could just sit there and spam Atonement and get people up because everyone was so spread out. Or during Black Fuse. Oh, good old days of Atonement being good. Also, Binding Heal. I really miss Binding Heal for Disc Priests. I don't like that they took it away. That was my favorite emergency heal. Binding Heal was basically a flash heal, which healed your target and yourself for the same amount. So it was basically like a heal that also just healed yourself. But there was a glyph, which increased its mana cost by like 35%, and would allow you to heal a third target. So you're basically healing yourself, the target you use it on, plus someone near them for the same amount. You're basically healing 3 people for the amount of a flash heal. So you could just stand still, and as long as you had mana, you could just heal like crazy, and it would, the smart heal would just heal who needed the big heal, because it was a big heal. It was basically a flash heal, which is a big thing. And I really loved the glyph. I was like, yeah, it cost a lot of mana, so you could only use it like in dangerous situations, like, I don't know, the whirlwind phase in Garage. I loved that. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna use half my mana for this phase, and no one will die because the healing is just that good. And then they got rid of it. I was like, ugh, that was my only semi-emergency AoE heal, and I don't have anything except Prayer of Healing, which is garbage because it's only group-based. Oh, actually in Mist it was pretty good. It was a pretty good heal in Mist. They didn't neuter it until Warlords. I mean, it was still group-based, but it actually healed for a decent amount and didn't cost... I mean, it costs a lot of mana too, but yeah, I don't think it actually costs as much as it does now. Or maybe it did, and it just heals for so little that it makes it seem like it costs more mana now than it did back then. I don't know. That's it for this video, though.